Hello and welcome to India Ideas, the weekly show which is all about science and tech, innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm Gautam Roy. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been confronted with stories about borewells going dry and a water crisis in India's Silicon Valley, Bengaluru. What better issue to take up and talk about startups in the water conservation or management sector when the 22nd of March also marks World Water Day? That's our showcase today. India, at the latest count, had at least 207 water and wastewater management tech startups. India's smart water management revenue grew from $1.5 billion in 2017 to $22 billion by 2022. It may not sound like much now, but the scope of growth in the sector is tremendous, as usable water, both for drinking and other work, is becoming a more and more precious commodity each passing day. Climate change, indiscriminate usage, over-exploitation, pollution from both industry and households is making water more and more scarce. So, with a sense of urgency, we're talking about the role of startups in water conservation and management today with Mansi Jain, co-founder of Digital Pani, which is a water management service provider based in Delhi NCR, using a blend of advanced sensing, data analysis and AI-driven solutions. We also have Rupankar Bhattacharya with us, founder Kumbhi Kagas, which makes handmade paper using water hyacinth, which is an invasive weed causing ecological imbalances in wetlands. Ankit Jain is also with us, co-founder Step Change, which is a climate tech startup working to make companies more sustainable using science-based tools. And we also have Sarah Arora with us, partner Bharat Founders Fund, or BFF, which is an early-stage collective fund led by prominent Indian tech entrepreneurs. It's also invested in Digital Pani. Okay, let's start with you, Mansi. Welcome to you all in the first place. Mansi, sewage treatment plants are more or less mandatory now in all urban settings. What percentage of them are managed as they should be, and what can Digital Pani do for them in the first place?
Sure. Thank you so much, Gautam, for having me. So, yes, they are mandatory more or less, but the current situation still is that we're only treating about 28% of our sewage today. And that is actually only the built up capacity. As per our experience, around 70% facilities actually don't work properly, even though they're supposed to be and resources are being invested in them. And that's exactly what Digital Pani is trying to solve. So, our mission is to actually drive operational excellence in all of these assets so that they work as they're supposed to and we're able to recover the water that we need in order to recycle all of it.
Okay. A bit more about Step Change. What sort of tools does it have to help companies and other organizations become more sustainable, particularly in the area of water management?
Over the last few years, we're definitely seeing a lot of focus on sustainability, partly because it has been mandated first by SEBI and then other regulators to start reporting on a lot of these metrics. So tools like us do broadly four things, right? One, we essentially help companies measure all of their sustainable metrics in a way that they can be audited, right? So just measuring them is not enough. You have to make sure that you're doing them with a level of precision that they can pass a stringent audit, right? Because that's a requirement. Second, we help a lot of companies set up targets on how to reduce waste, how to reduce carbon emissions, what to do with water and other environmental metrics to become more sustainable. Right? And the fact that today over 1,000 companies in India are reporting these metrics and they get benchmark against each other forces companies to continuously up these targets and up their game. The third type of thing we do is often work with these companies to help make their value chain more sustainable, because often a large part of the footprint of a company, whether it's their water footprint or their carbon footprint, tends to sit in their value chain. So that's a big part as well. And finally, the type of tools that companies are starting to use is around risk, right? Environmental risk. So understanding climate risk, understanding water risk, understanding biodiversity risk that sits in their operations. Because increasingly, as you rightly said, right, that we are struggling with water. So what does that mean in terms of risks? If for your different offices, for your employees, for your value chain, where might you run out of water, and hence how to start thinking about it today is something that companies are deeply aware of and working towards.
All right. Let me go back to Rupankar. I'm told his audio has been fixed. There was some infiltration going on earlier. Rupankar, please let me quickly know what sort of challenge are you taking on and how it can be an effective solution to water hyacinth, which we see in ponds all over the place in large parts of East India, and that really spoils the water. You can't really use it for anything else.
Water hyacinth, like they're out of all the problems that wetlands are facing. Like if I start from the big, like initially there were 24 lakh wetlands in India during the time of independence, and now we only have like 20 lakhs are gone and 4 lakhs are left all over in India. So water hyacinth has been like out of all the problem, water hyacinth has always been a big issue. So what we do is that we collect the plant entirely and convert it into paper. So that's how we can consume more water hyacinth and focus on controlled growth of water hyacinth rather than totally eradicating that particular plant. Though it's an invasive aquatic plant which is not from India, it's not native. So that's how we are trying to now focus on how controlled growth of water hyacinth can be achieved.
All right. Now, Sarah, I understand that BFF has invested in Digital Pani, but tell us why have you done that? Did the fact that it was working in the field of management, water management, weigh in its favor, or did it just seem like it was a good business to fund, which will give great returns down the line?
I think the primary reason for investing in Digital Pani was that the business has strong fundamentals. And I'm sure, as you observe now too, Mansi is a fantastic operator with very deep knowledge and bottoms up insights about the industry at large. Our interactions with them helped us understand the on ground challenges and honestly, their clarity of thought about what and how they wanted to build. Digital Pani was just a very impressive business, in general. The broad macro of the industry does have tailwinds. However, water is like a public goods product, right? And it's always going to be heavily subsidized. Businesses that create infrastructure in this space would naturally have longer gestation periods. And it's a tall order for a small private company to achieve. Our portfolio companies like Digital Pani and Step Change that create technology IP are scalable business models in comparison, and hopefully, yes, will give us great returns down the line.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Mansi, tell us about the overall impact that Digital Pani has had so far, where the larger objectives of water conservation, sustainable use of water, and addressing water scarcity are concerned.
Sure. So I think at Digital Pani, we're really trying to take a first principles approach to solving the water crisis. The way we see it, wastewater is going to be key if we want to solve this crisis because it's the only source of water which is heavily underutilized. It's available everywhere. It's renewable. And we can actually meet 65 to 70% of urban water needs if we use our wastewater right. So that's why we've really focused in on this particular problem. And as of today, we are currently treating around 900 million liters of wastewater in Digital Pani powered plants every single day. And if we talk about our incremental impact, because of course we don't want to overstate the case, these facilities were treating water before as well. Currently, we believe that we're adding around 1.5 million liters of treatment per day and enabling about 2 million liters of fresh water to be offset because wastewater is being used instead. And we expect this impact to grow significantly. It grows roughly proportional to the business. So in about 5 years' time, we're expecting that about 300 million liters, which is equivalent to the needs of a city like Cape Town, that much fresh water can actually be avoided from use because we're using wastewater instead. So that's really what we're going for in terms of impact.
Interesting that you mentioned Cape Town, which ran dry a couple of years ago as well and had a major crisis on its hands earlier. Now, Rupankar, what can you tell us about the extent to which Kumbhi Kagas has gone so far and intends to go in tackling the water hyacinth menace?
So I'll just, whenever I talk about water hyacinth, I say that in some day I want to see people standing in front of wetlands holding a placard and saying save water hyacinth. So water hyacinth is that like what to say, sort of people has portrayed it in a devil format. But what we did in last 2 years, we collected more than 50 to 60 tons of water hyacinth. And the place from where we started collecting water hyacinth, now there is natural growth of makhana that we consume. It's also known as a superfood. In English, we know it as foxnut. So there was natural growth of foxnut. So water hyacinth, they kill the space for the natural growing aquatic plants and also is harmful for the like most of the aquatic life. So that's how we want to like as I said, take out water hyacinth in such a way that there is controlled growth, and we also can create space for the natural like native plant species. So till now we did this, and in further, like in future, we want to like continue doing this in a greater scale, where more and more aquatic life can be benefited by
Wonderful.
taking out water hyacinth from.
And I know Makhana very well because my native place is Darbhanga. That's where I originally come from. So, Ankit, how receptive are companies really to sustainability solutions? Is it confined to meeting compliance requirements now, or are they genuinely keen to adopt these methods while spending some serious money to minimize their environmental footprint?
So I would say, Gautam, that they've definitely gone beyond just meeting compliance, right? So today, to give you a sense, at Step Change, working with many large enterprises in India, we've measured almost 450 million tons of CO2 in emissions. To put that number in perspective, that's larger than the country of France, and represents about 15% of India's emissions. Right now,
So is
that
that
is
light is that light dawning that if they don't fix this issue, it's going to come back to bite them where it hurts the most?
it is starting to, and it is, and especially because all of this is becoming public. Now it is visible to their customers, it is visible to their investors, it is visible to their employees. So companies are feeling the push to become sustainable from multiple sides. And we are seeing that more and more companies are going from purely looking at it from a compliance standpoint to now starting to at least look at it from an efficiency standpoint, where they're saying, okay, there are gains to be had here on both cost cutting as well as sustainability, and slowly moving now towards leadership, which is where they say, okay, there's truly a competitive differentiation I can create by being a more sustainable company, by attracting more employees, by appealing to our customers, and as well as to investors in the public market.
Okay. Now, Sarah, water conservation is right now a small subsector of climate tech startups. What, to your mind, is the growth potential of this subsector, bearing in mind that Rajendra Singh, also known as the Waterman of India, had said that if there's a third world war, it will be over water?
Gautam, at BFF, we believe that startups focused on water management and conservation are not only addressing a critical environmental and social challenge, but they're also tapping into a massive market opportunity. Water scarcity intensifying due to climate change, population growth, unsustainable consumption patterns. The demand for technologies that enable more efficient water use, treatment, and distribution will only logically continue to grow. As you had mentioned, India's smart water management market alone grew from 1.5 billion in 2017 to about 20 odd billion now. And we only expect this trend to accelerate in the coming years, both in India and globally. As you can see governments, businesses, citizens increasingly prioritizing water security and sustainability.
Do you think it'll be like exponential?
I would like to hope so, because even today, right, numerous high growth verticals within this space, from precision agriculture all the way to smart city infrastructure, which prioritizes natural resource optimization from the beginning, these are all ripe for distribution. And I truly see that there is immense potential for technology driven solutions to scale and create very significant impact.
Right. Now, Mansi, do our water conservation startups have the ability to come up with the kind of solutions that situations of water scarcity really need, which have been cropping up in places like Bengaluru and will most likely come up in other cities, maybe even villages in the coming summer months?
Definitely. So I think when we talk about tackling the broader crisis, we need to look both at supply side as well as demand side solutions. On the supply side, wastewater management, we think is the key thing to go for. And that's something we're working on. But there's also a number of great other startups working to help utilities, help municipalities reduce leakages, for example, in their pipelines. There's also a number of companies working on lake rejuvenation, as well as rainwater harvesting. And I think having all of these together is what will eventually create a good solution. Now, on the demand side, there are a number as well. We do this as well, where we work with buildings and industries and actually help them reduce their water consumption to begin with. So, in combination, this is what will create the ultimate solution. I do think there's still a lot to be done in terms of having a uniform water pricing framework, because there is a lot of disparity across states. and ultimately attracting much more private investment. We have it all, we just need to use it.
Right, because the government has taken on a mission speed and in a mission manner, getting water to every household, har ghar jal, and it's happening in villages as well. My village didn't have water for decades together, and now gets fresh potable water is what is reaching. So this is only expanding the pressure on water as well because of this reach that it has now under this program. So do you think that is also something that needs to be borne in mind, because you have more and more pressure coming on supplied water, and there is of course recycling not taking place to that extent in rural areas at all?
Definitely, no, the need for recycling is just going to increase. That's inevitable. And we are seeing immense traction in the JJM space, where there's actually a lot of micro water treatment units and so on coming up, as well as bore wells coming up across villages. So there's a lot of opportunity being created there, as well as need to actually treat more wastewater in the rural arena as well.
All right. Now, Rupankar, I understand that right now you're into making handmade paper using water hyacinth. Have you also looked at making commercial grade paper, which is used in printers in offices and all over the place, or even newsprint paper from this particular weed? Is it possible? Because if it is, you'll have a wider market and a clear away far more water hyacinth at the same time.
Yeah, Gautam. So let me tell you one thing. Our handmade paper, which we manufacture, is 100% chemical free, and it is also printer friendly as well. Like already we started the work in that particular way, where like handmade paper are generally they are not printer friendly, but our handmade paper is already printer friendly, and we have already started working on to make this particular raw material commercial paper in future. But our like we have a very straight in a very proper way, we have a aim that we don't want to add chemical even in future. We want to make it, so that's why it took me a lot of time to come up with some natural fiber to make it like without adding any chemical, nothing, no starch, nothing, no binding agents, and making it into paper. So it will take us more than, I think that next 5 years we can definitely get into commercial paper segment.
Sounds good. Now, Ankit, just tell me, how you're making sure that more and more people, more and more companies, organizations are aware of what you can offer to them and what it could really mean for their operations, the sustainability of it, and even their bottom line in both India and abroad.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks, Gautam, for that question. So we definitely, as a startup, can't do a lot of this by ourselves. So we do a lot of partnerships in this space. So one of the things, for example, we've done is we partnered with the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. My co-founder was a course instructor on the national course on ESG, and through that we created a fair bit of awareness in the market. We did multiple workshops on BRSR last year. We also have an app that allows employers to help their employees and customers become sustainable, to understand how much water they can save, how much biodiversity impact they can have by making simple habitual changes in their life. We also do a lot of partnerships around capacity building with multiple industry bodies, the likes of Indian Banks Association or NASSCOM and others, where we work with their members to create awareness, to help them understand the issues and help them figure out what steps they can take to become more sustainable. And by ourselves, we have a series of webinars that we do for the industry to, again, create awareness about the topic and help them understand how they can get started with this journey. While this journey can feel daunting at times with the number of things that you have to track and make progress on, but just knowing those first few steps that you can take in making progress is what helps companies start to move forward.
Definitely, that I'm sure would help. And Sarah, what are some of the most promising trends and innovations you've been seeing in water management and climate tech space recently, which seem to you like a juicy proposition?
I think there's a lot to look forward to. The landscape of water management and climate tech startups in India is just on the brink of transformative change, right? Promising a very sustainable future for all of us and our coming generations. We witnessed almost a remarkable 29% increase in investments across the climate tech sector in just the past few years. This surge is starting to percolate into erstwhile overlooked areas like water management, which is very important. I think a pivotal factor that's fueling this momentum intervention is, the intervention by policy. It's a testament to this in the accelerated residential solar adoption spurred by initiatives like Saryavodya Yojana. Right? It was very beneficial to one of
Yeah,
our
I'll give you a small example. All the light bulbs got changed to LEDs, and that saved us a lot of electricity. There might be a day when the government will say, take these tap fixtures to reduce the water that you use. That may happen.
Exactly. And I hope these days are sooner, right? And similar policy frameworks or, just sort of thinking in that direction, tailored for water management can obviously significantly amplify the impact that it can have. And of course, given the current situation in Bengaluru, it'll hopefully take the forefront very soon as well. On the innovation front, Indian startups are pioneering groundbreaking technologies across the board. But for instance, in this space, VGOT is an IoT solution that optimizes and manages water infrastructure for high-rise buildings.
Okay.
Carbon Strong is creating green concrete to reduce carbon emissions in the construction space. WasteLink is utilizing food
And construction
waste.
also uses a lot of water.
Exactly, right? There's so many innovative companies that are coming out, and of course, the amazing portfolio companies that we have here, Step Change, Digital Pani, doing their bit. So as we kind of navigate the complexities of climate change as a community, the convergence of policy support, investments in the sector, and innovation within the water management space in India, they definitely seem to be poised to thrive.
All right, let's see if we are at that inflection point or not. I think it will be revealed in not too long from now. And let's hope that we are acting fast in the right direction to ensure that not just startups in this field flourish, they need to, because if we have to live beyond our own generation, that is essentially a requirement. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about it today. That's all we have in this edition of India Ideas, and do keep joining us every week for more and more updates on India's startup ecosystem. Thanks for watching DD India.